From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Coming up on AgDay, U.S. rice could soon be on the way to China.
To say that China is a major rice market is an understatement.
But what will it take to get that market going? FSA offices open again tomorrow for one last day during the government shutdown. A look at what services are being offered. And this is Moving Markets, a possible plan to narrow the trade gap between the U.S. and China.
AgDay, presented by the all-new Chevy Silverado, the strongest, most advanced Silverado ever.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. This would be incredible if it becomes a reality. Bloomberg reporting China is offering a path to eliminate the U.S. trade imbalance. It reports China has offered to go on a 6-year buying spree. It would increase annual good imports from the U.S. with a combined value of more than $1 trillion. The source of this information asking not to be named, according to Bloomberg. Now, this would mean China's trade surplus would be zero by the year 2024. Just word about this and trade tensions possibly being eased, helping to push the Dow into positive territory last week. But analysts say trade is only one part of these negotiations.
What about intellectual property? What about all the other big ticket items that are on our wish list or our demands, our needs in order to get this deal done? And it feels like they're trying to throw money at a problem and use that to kind of sidestep some of the other problems. I don't know. Longer term, I'm a little skeptical about it. I think the markets are reacting positively to it and should be. But I'm taking it with a bit of a grain of salt. I mean, it would be great, but there's other pieces to this puzzle that need to be addressed. And if that's not addressed, any amount of money is not going to fix it.
Could the U.S. be considering lifting tariffs against China? According to the Wall Street Journal, U.S. Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin is discussing lifting some, if not all, tariffs on China. He may even offer a tariff rollback during the next round of trade discussions. Those talks are planned to begin January 30th with China's economic chief. The Journal said the proposal has not yet been introduced to President Trump. Also, the report says Mnuchin faced pushback from U.S. Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer, who feels any concession could be seen as a sign of weakness. There's also more information coming out regarding U.S.-China trade talks in Beijing earlier this month. The Wall Street Journal also reporting on this, saying those discussions included reopening China's market to U.S. chicken exports. In 2017, U.S. meat companies shipped $1.3 million worth of chicken meat to China. While pork remains by far China's most consumed protein, U.S. meat industry officials see the chance for chicken to fill any gap left by constrained pork production in China due to the ongoing African swine fever outbreak. And China appears to be working to develop an ASF vaccine. That's according to reports citing a statement from the China Ministry of Science and Technology. The country also trying to set up a project to study origins of ASF and how it spreads. Meanwhile, China's Ag Ministry saying new cases of African swine fever were confirmed in Gansu, in the northwest part of China. Several FSA offices closed around the country today because of the national holiday, but many are scheduled to reopen tomorrow. Agriculture Secretary Sonny Perdue reopening several of the offices last week to try and help farmers during the partial government shutdown. AgDay's Betsy Gibbon joins me now. And Betsy, you visited an FSA office in Indiana last week. What should people expect?
Well, Clinton, it depends on the location. I traveled to northeastern Indiana to visit an FSA office, and I was told the office was busy Thursday, the first day it reopened. But no farmers showed up to the FSA office during the morning of my visit. And that may be because the office is limited with what they can do to help farmers. In addition to the office, the NRCS office in Columbia City, Indiana was open too. It put up signs so people would know it was indeed open. I caught up with one farmer who was heading next door to NRCS. Here's what he had to say about FSA reopening for a short period of time.
Oh, I'm pretty well done for the year. I took care of everything before everything hit, and I got nothing more to do.
Anderson said he received his MFP payment already, but even if he didn't, FSA cannot work on that right now. We reached out on Twitter to see if you're making the trek to your local office. Some said they made the drive, but one farmer told me he's still waiting to close on a farm purchase with a young farmer's loan. He says he's out of luck until the shutdown ends.
Betsy, thank you. President Trump has canceled the U.S. delegation's trip later this month to an economic forum in Davos, Switzerland. It's the latest development in the back and forth over whether lawmakers and the Trump administration officials should travel during the partial government shutdown. The White House press secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders says that out of consideration for the 800,000 federal workers not getting paid, the president has cut the trip to the World Economic Forum. There may be no bigger factor for the farm economy in 2019 than the president. That's why President Trump is the cover story of this month's Farm Journal magazine. It's the first time since the 90s that a president has been on the cover, and only the second time in 142 years. The story takes a deep dive into farmers' perspectives on President Trump. The magazine hits mailboxes this week, or you can read the story by heading to agday.com and clicking on show links. As farm debt continues to rise, the Kansas City Federal Reserve says the volume of operating loans is now reaching historic levels. The Kansas City Fed services much of the western Corn Belt. The Fed says non-real estate farm loans in the fourth quarter of 2018 were up 8% from a year ago. That marks the 7th consecutive quarter where the number of loans grew. Fed officials say much of that is driven by more farmers looking for money to fund current operating expenses. Illinois ag banker Alan Hoskin says as interest rates creep higher, it's adding to farm financial stress, especially on highly leveraged operations.
Short-term interest rates going up. Even with the status quo, the rise in short-term interest rates will increase the pressure. If you look at the price of inputs, that will increase the pressure. So even though, say, working capital positions are pretty consistent with where they were last year, when you start looking at projections, they are tighter because of those two factors in particular.
Looking at land, financial pressure and limited profits aren't hurting land values. The KC Fed says strong land values continue to support farms and could be a key factor in the coming months if leverage continues to increase. When a member of the farming community passes away, people often come up with unique ways to honor them. And that's the case in today's Crop Comments with meteorologist Cindy Clausen.
Well, Clinton, many people are sharing this touching tribute to one farmer. This video was taken by Justin Whitteman in Grove City, Ohio. It was in honor of his grandpa, Richard Whitteman. The family taking Richard on one last ride along the scenic route right by the family farm. Justin said they got everything they could out of the barns for him to enjoy one last time. What a beautiful tribute. Well, let's take a look at our drought monitor, and you can see drought is pretty much wiped out in most of the eastern United States. We still have some dryness in Florida. Focus still remains on the west, especially over towards the Four Corners region and over into Oregon. But a lot of that dryness in California, well, we've had some rains recently, so we've seen some improvement in the drought there. I'll have your national forecast coming up, but for now, here are some hometown temps.
Introducing Farm Journal TV, on demand 24/7. AgDay, Machinery Pete TV. U.S. Farm Report on your phone and tablet. Download the Farm Journal TV mobile app today.
It's not planting season yet, but your equipment's GPS may not be as accurate as it can be right now. According to a new study in Nature, the magnetic North Pole is moving at a rate of about 35 miles per year. And over the last 30 years, the rate of movement has been picking up speed. The U.S. plans to adjust its navigation models accordingly, and that was supposed to happen last week. But due to the government shutdown, it's been delayed. So far, the markets have started off the year without much excitement. Why is that? And could that change soon? We look at from Top Producer Summit in Chicago. That's coming up. And later, what it will take to get U.S. rice moving to China ahead on AgDay.
AgDay, brought to you by Precision Planting, provider of practical and effective precision ag technologies to help make farmers smarter every season. Learn more at precisionplanting.com.
Agribusiness markets reacting strongly to the tariff and trade news we told you about earlier. Let's get details now from the folks on the floor of the CME in Chicago.
Soybeans rallied today. The bullish news is really driving the futures higher. It is true that there is movement in the tariff wars, so I think that that's really given some positive news to some of the traders that wanted to jump on board early. In Brazil, it's still hot and dry. That's also positive. There's floods in Argentina. That's also another piece of bullish news because it's stressing the crops there as well. So all good things are coming and pushing this market higher. Corn was also higher. China did buy some corn from the Ukraine, and what this is seen as an indication that the buying is starting to move to the U.S. market. That's really going to help a lot. That's really going to add to the demand for corn and maybe start to eat through some of the supplies that we're having. But the real grain story is that could it be possible that the tariff war may be solved before the government shutdown? And we never really looked at it that way, but it looks certain that that might be what we're going to be facing over the next couple of days, and that's going to be really positive for all the grains across the board.
We're here at Top Producer Summit. We've caught up with Bill Biederman. And Bill, as we watch these markets, we keep waiting for something really to take off and happen in 2019. And one thing we've noticed is that cash prices and bases seem to not be doing anything. Do we know why?
Well, yeah, usually the Southeast imports corn from the West when they run out of the Eastern Belt, but the Eastern Belt has so much corn, their import requirements are going to be down like 20%. So that's pushing a little bit of corn back up into that northwest sector. So it's really flattening the basis out. So really, if a farmer can get an average to above average basis locked in, it's probably a good idea. The other thing too is, this market near term is just locked in sideways.
Yeah, right. We seem real range bound here.
And a tight range too. So what we're hearing is that above 285 or right around there, farmers are selling some grain, not a lot, but enough to meet the needs. Below 375, it just shuts off. So that keeps the market pretty tight. Eventually, we'll probably move to the upside when we start needing the acreage and things like that. I mean, we're not going to buy corn acres by lowering bean prices this year because nothing's profitable here for a lot of guys.
Yeah, yeah. So as we start to talk about that mix for 2019, are we going to see this 5 million acre jump in corn that some people are even talking about, or is it still an unknown?
I think if you stay below 420, you're going to see minimal acreage change. I've got 2 million acres in my numbers, and then a 4 million cut in beans, and then we'll probably see some go to spring wheat and other things like that. But no, I don't think that the budgets on the farm that I've seen are going to support moving acreage into corn.
Okay, so it's just a lot of different factors going into those decisions as we prepare here for 2019.
Yeah, and that actually sets up 2019 for the possibility of a real weather scare, because you got to remember, world stocks are dropping 18%. U.S. stocks are also going to drop if we don't increase those acres. So could be a good weather market this summer.
Yeah, absolutely. Something to watch. Appreciate it, Bill. Thank you. We'll be back with more Ag Day. Just a minute.
To talk with Bill Biederman one-on-one, call Allendale Incorporated at 815-404-1917 or head online to allendale-inc.com. Join Andrew McRae for Farming the Countryside, a farmer-focused podcast that is all about production agriculture. Farming the Countryside is available wherever you listen to your favorite podcast and is brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions, the world's largest provider of crop inputs and services.
Welcome back to Ag Day. I'm meteorologist Cindy Clausen looking at rainfall over the last week. And Cindy, I'm kind of standing in the way here, but California really getting a big bunch of rain last week.
They really have in more than one round, if you will, and so they've really had their share. That's one of the areas that we've seen some rain. Let's take a look at the map and show you some of the other areas that we've had a lot of moisture. And that includes from snowfall as well, especially here in the nation's midsection, all the way into the mid-Atlantic where we had all of that snow. And there's California, a lot of areas rain and upper elevation snow there contributing to the liquid moisture amount across the state. Let's take a look at what our jet stream is showing as we head through the week. Cold blast in the northeastern United States. We've got another trough that's in the northwest. As we put this into motion, we're going to see that one coming across, not quite as deep, but watch what happens as we get into next weekend. A big, deep trough is what this model is showing, with very, very cold air potential all the way down into the southeast. Check that out. It is going to be pretty cold, looks like, next weekend in a lot of the eastern part of the country, where we start to see a ridge developing late next weekend into early next week into the west. All right, here's what we're looking at for this week as a whole. We're looking at cooler than normal temperatures, Great Lakes all the way down to the Gulf Coast and even into parts of the Four Corners region. As far as the southeast, we could be a little bit on the warm side in parts of the southeast and in parts of the northwest and along the west coast as well. As far as precipitation is concerned, still looking a little dry in the southern plains and in parts of the west, but overall above normal. fall in the eastern, probably third of the country, as long as the upper Midwest and into the northern plains as well. The 30-day temperatures are looking cold for the eastern 2/3 of the country. It looks like the warmer air is going to be hanging out in the western United States, pretty much right along the west coast there. And then as far as precipitation, as we head into the next 30 days, little on the dry side in the upper Midwest, but parts of the eastern United States and along the Gulf Coast, you're looking at some above normal precipitation there over the next 30 days, as well as the Four Corners region and into the southwest. These are some of the more wet, or the more dry areas, I should say, and could use some of that moisture. That's your national forecast. Now let's check on the weather where you live. Laramie, Wyoming, breezy with snow showers today and a high of 36 degrees. Portage, Wisconsin, clouds increase with snow later today and a high of 19. Very cold in Johnstown, Pennsylvania. Sunshine, but a high of only 8.
Here's something you don't see every day. Check out this giant spinning ice disc. It was spotted in a river in Westbrook, Maine. It's about 100 yards wide. It was believed to have formed naturally in a part of the river where there's a circular current that creates a whirlpool effect. The formation has drawn comparisons to an alien spacecraft, a carousel, and the moon. But since this video was taken, it has stopped spinning. The weather and used equipment prices has Machinery Pete on notice.
Hey, stay tuned folks. Coming up, we're going to talk about 6-row corn heads and one ingenious farmer invention.
AgDay, brought to you by Corvus Corn Herbicide from Bayer. Get an early season win against weeds with Corvus for end of season rewards.
Well, I'm sitting here in the middle of January up in Minnesota, folks, and we hardly have any snow. Now, I feel sorry for our friends down in Missouri, Kansas, parts of Illinois that had a foot of snow with that storm last week. Now, I did see on Twitter one farmer invention to help deal with that snow, and here's a picture of the tweet. It was from John Boylan, and his brother Curtis took an old John Deere 643 corn head, stripped it down, and made it into this ingenious snow pusher. And you can see getting the job done. And they call this thing the Curtis. And my own take on Curtis, I think he's a genius. Now, as long as we're on the topic of John Deere 6-row corn heads, let's talk values. And we'll start off with the older models. John Deere 643s, last year average auction price $2,538. That was actually down 12.2% from the previous year. And as we work our way newer, John Deere 693 corn heads, last year average auction price $8,041. And that was up just under 1%, so basically flat last year. And the newer models, the 606Cs, average auction price last year, $21,543. But I did see this one sell on a farm auction a week ago Saturday in west central Illinois, a very nice 2012 model, and it brought $28,000.
All right, thanks, Greg. U.S. rice markets could soon be opening up for China. But what will it take to get U.S. rice moving overseas? We look into that next. The Chinese government recently gave approval for U.S. rice to be exported to China. While there are a few hurdles to clear before rice enters China, it gives an oversupplied U.S. market a potential major customer. LSU Ag Center reporter Craig Gautreaux has a story.
In what some have termed a goodwill gesture toward trade relations with the U.S., the Chinese government is allowing U.S. rice to be imported into China. Rice is not expected to begin flowing into China immediately because officials are still working out what facilities will be approved for export to China.
For the rice tendering process to officially begin for U.S. rice merchants and millers, those agreements and those certificates have to be in place before the bidding process can occur.
U.S. rice production has recently increased and is creating a downward pressure on prices, even with the potential of a major buyer like China.
I really see rice prices really struggling to improve that much, again, simply due to the increase in production and the increase in carry-in that we're going to see in the 2019-2020 marketing year.
But China is a significant consumer of rice and has the potential of becoming a major market for U.S. rice.
To say that China is a major rice market is an understatement. They consume about 144 million tons of rice a year. In other words, they can consume an entire U.S. rice crop in probably about 2 weeks' time.
U.S. rice will face stiff opposition from countries that are closer to China and have the advantage of cheaper transportation costs.
we're going to have to contend with rice coming out of those Southeast Asian nations to get a share of that new emerging Chinese market for U.S. rice.
One advantage for Louisiana rice producers is that they grow mostly long grain rice, which is the preferred choice in China. With the LSU Ag Center, this is Craig Gautreaux reporting.
According to Delaberto, U.S. rice acreage was up 22% from the 2 previous seasons, which is the cause of those higher ending stocks. That's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. Spend part of your Monday with us. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day.